Hey, welcome World Entertainment, and we're talking about legacies of shows and movies and games and everything we've grown to know and love, respect, adore, admire, everything throughout all the years, and how Hollywood has come along and changed its mindset and fundamentally destroyed the very things we loved for identity politics and just politics in general. And it's a sad state of affair to see these once prominent properties crumble away before our very eyes. We've just heard the announcement that Doctor Who, its Christmas special, cancelled, scrapped, and the show is basically now in limbo because the BBC cannot finance the show and need to outsource it, and are hoping and praying they can get somebody on board to give them money to be able to continue. And it looks like it could possibly end up being a full reboot. Stargate, of course, was going to be brought back through Amazon with the original creators of the TV series and stuff. And what happened? No, they decided, you're kind of leaning too heavily into respecting the fans. Star Trek, of course, is long dead under Alex Kurtzman's regime. The likes of MacGyver and so many others have come and gone with these reboots and rehashes, and more importantly, what they like to say now, reimaginings. We've seen nothing but race swaps, gender swaps, sexuality swaps, all of these things, and it only ever goes in one direction. It never goes in the opposite direction. It's always in the one direction, and that direction is get rid of the straight white man. That's like, why are you doing this? Why are you alienating the very people who made these shows and movies and games and comic books what they are? So when you have shows like a Doctor Who and Star Trek that have endured for 60 years, that's right, 60 years, to then come along and shovel your modern day sensibilities into it. When Russell T Davies himself once said this about Doctor Who, that Doctor Who has always been gay-centric, because he said, it's very anti-establishment. The program has never been overly heterosexual, and it's incredibly camp. All those incredibly vampy outfits. That's what he said. Now, Russell T Davies is an interesting one to look at, because this is a guy who came in when Doctor Who was in the worst possible place it could be. It was essentially, for all intents and purposes, cancelled. And he came in and did something nobody thought would be possible. He turned it around and saved the show. He brought in Matt Smith, he brought in David Tennant, all these guys, and he made Doctor Who great again, for the lack of a better word. And then he left. But he left it into his friends' hands and thought Chibnall would do just as much as great work, and fans had high hopes. And what happened? He brought in Jodie Whittaker. He removed the male Doctor and he brought in Jodie Whittaker. And fans rejected it immediately, especially when one of her first lines to announce that she has changed to being a woman was, I got an upgrade. It was like, what? And it didn't stop there, because then they went ahead and decided, you know what, the Doctor wasn't always a man. In fact, let's make sure to announce that the very first Doctor was in fact a little black girl who fell calmly to her death and then was tortured over and over and over again to regenerate. And it was just like, what are you doing? And then we thought the writing was on the wall that the show could be saved again, because the announcement was Russell T Davies was coming back, and people had high hopes until they announced who the new Doctor would be, Ncuti Gatwa. Now, people immediately jumped onto the bandwagon of, that's just the racists who don't want it because he's black, when people were pushing for black actors to portray the Doctor. There was no issue with his skin colour. The issue was you were bringing him in to be a gay character. the guy is gay in real life, but he's one of those over eccentric gays. And you used that and used him for that message. It wasn't going to be about the Doctor anymore. It was about being gay and being seen, as Russell T Davies likes to say, which he now also says he feels like an idiot for ever trying to campaign for gay visibility, because he thinks, oh, where the homosexuals are getting forced into the closet once again, thanks to everybody pushing back against all of this garbage. And yet, there was a fantastic response to that on X. I can't find it myself, but if you look at Heel vs Babyface channel and his video about the cancellation of the Christmas special and stuff, he's got it in there, where an actual gay guy responded to Russell T Davies and called Russell T Davies out for his statement, saying, no, you are one of the reasons it's getting pushed back, because you took these properties that were never these things and you forced this stuff upon people. And that's the issue. We keep seeing this happening over and over again. So Star Trek has been a 60-year legacy that has endured the test of time. Yeah, it's had ups, it's had downs, but it's always been there, and it's always been great storytelling. Well, watch out, because here comes Alex Kurtzman, and what's all of a sudden the whole focus of Star Trek? Yeah, it's no longer about Star Trek, it's about using it as a platform to push the messages of BLM and all these other organizations. That was Alex Kurtzman who said that. That wasn't us making that up. That was him coming out and flat out saying that. And then when you push back against it, it's like, well, you're just bigots. You were never true fans. You're toxic. You're this, you're that. And then what happens? The shows come out and they destroy the legacy of Star Trek. We had Discovery, which started downfall, which became one of the most hateful characters ever with Michael Burnham, when we were told we were supposed to love and cherish and follow the character, who immediately started a mutiny on her own ship, got her captain killed, and started a war with the Klingons. This was the person we were told is the hero and that we're supposed to cheer for. Then of course Picard came out, and what happened? Picard became a selfish old fart who was just waiting in his chateau to die, where then ultra violence and language was shoveled in to the family friendly series, where we had the ever loved line that's constantly used, sheer fucking hubris, which the irony is that's exactly what Alex Kurtzman had walking into this franchise, with all of his mindset and ideas for what the future of Star Trek is. Because my god, did he walk in with sheer fucking hubris. And it alienated all the fans. Eyeballs being ripped out of faces from beloved characters, heads being cut off, F-bombs being dropped here, there and everywhere, borderline sex scenes, incest storylines. Remember that? The Romulan brother and sister that were borderline incest. It was just this, what the hell has Star Trek become? This is not Star Trek. And of course it didn't end there, because it just kept going and going. We got all singing, dancing episodes for Strange New Worlds where even the Klingons were doing a boy band style singing. And then of course the most offensive abomination under the Alex Kurtzman regime got dropped only this year, which was of course Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which immediately Robert Picardo decided my legacy isn't worth saving, so I'll destroy it by defending to my last breath this piece of dog shit show by coming out and attacking the fan base and saying you were never true Star Trek fans. Very much in vain of Ewan McGregor in the car video. Oh, you're no Star Wars fans in my mind, even though you're clearly reading the script that Disney wrote for you to say. Because what? An actor got hired for a job who we immediately after the first trailer went, you're clearly going to focus on her rather than Obi-Wan. And that's exactly what happened. And then what did she do? She came out and said, oh yeah, Lucasfilm warned me about the racist backlash I'm going to receive. That's a weird thing to do. Hey, we'd love to hire you for this job, but it doesn't work, does it? He-Man. Now, why do I have He-Man in here? Do I have He-Man because of the brand new Masters of the Universe? No, I don't have He-Man in here for that. I have He-Man because He-Man was a beloved show, a beloved toy line. Masters of the Universe back in the 80s came out. The Dolph Lundgren movie wasn't received all that well because they focused the story on being on Earth, but the brand was still strong. And then came the news that Netflix was going to relaunch a brand new Masters of the Universe animated series under the guise of Kevin Smith. And people went, we're a bit cautious about this, but we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And what happened? It ended up being the biggest bait and switch ever, when the show immediately killed off He-Man in the first episode. Prince Adam / He-Man dead, killed, and the show was actually the Teela show. And not just was it the Teela show, but the design for Teela had people going, what the hell is even that? Another legacy destroyed. And then he of course went after people who said, this is a bait and switch, it's going to be a Teela show. And he kept going, no it isn't, how would you know? I've seen it all, you haven't. And he attacked everybody, especially Clownfish TV. And what happened? The show came out. He-Man was killed in the first episode, and it became the Teela show. And he never ever apologized and said, I was trying to throw you off the scent that was going to be the case. No, you knew exactly what you were going to do, and you attacked everybody for it. Then he said, don't worry, the second part will actually focus on He-Man. And it came out, and it didn't. So once again, he lied. Sure, He-Man came back, but it was still very much the Teela show. And the damage from that has led into the new Masters of the Universe movie. It's unfortunately dead in the water. It's not going to break even. It's not going to earn any money. It's probably going to lose a shit ton of money. And it looks like it will have destroyed any chances of a sequel. Unless they manage to make a sequel for under $100 million. Which I doubt they're going to do. But what is actually the problem with that movie? What is it that turned audiences away? Was it Masters of the Universe Revelations? No. It was the stupidity of the director and some of the cast themselves by coming out and saying, well, this is a whole story about masculine, toxic masculinity and all of this stuff. There's even articles already being put out saying, does Skeletor have sexual feelings towards He-Man? Because of a line in the movie. And it's like, you really can't help yourselves, can you? The media has to go after it and try and focus on, oh, it's anti-masculinity. It calls out the toxic masculinity. Ooh, Skeletor has the hots for He-Man and all this. And it's like, I don't know what movie you've watched, but it definitely wasn't that one. And it's just their own self-sabotage and self-destruction for all these things. Because we're not just seeing it with Masters of the Universe. We're seeing it with everything. Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the director for that came out and couldn't stop saying the movie's about black and brown identity and New York City. And that's all he ever spoke about. It was like, cool, what's the movie about? Never knew. And then you watched the movie and you went, where's the story about black and brown people and New York? New York barely features in the movie. And if he wants to push the idea that it was a true story and representation of black and brown people, dude, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror, because the first thing you introduced people to was a character, a black man, going for a job, not getting the job, walking out of the building, and immediately turning to crime. It's like, it's not really a great picture you're trying to paint here. Superman has been an established character for decades. Absolute decades. And what happens he gets corrupted. He gets taken over by morons who clearly never liked him and never understood and hated the phrase truth, justice, and the American way. James Gunn removed the American way from the all promotion of his Superman movie. What do they have for Supergirl coming out? Truth, justice, and whatever. Because they absolutely despise these characters, and yet they're working on these characters. How do we get introduced to Superman in the trailer? Him being half dead in the snow. That's exactly then how we get introduced to him in the movie. Under the guise of 30 years ago, this man arrived. 10 years ago, blah blah blah, and it goes all the way down to, and 3 minutes ago he lost his first fight. And then all we did for over 2 hours was watch Superman lose every single fight he was in his first movie under James Gunn. They clearly didn't understand what Superman is. They thought the best way to nuke his powers was to just have him get his ass kicked all the time. And it was like, what are we doing here? Of course, Warhammer 40k. Amazon are going to make a show with Henry Cavill. But what happens? All of a sudden, Amazon go, you know what? We need actually this to focus on something other than just Henry Cavill and the male characters. And they went to Games Workshop and said, any chance you could put some female warriors in here? Which there's always been plenty of. But what did they do? They didn't just go, sure. They went, who's Henry Cavill's favourite people in Warhammer? Oh, the Custodies. Here's what we'll do. Let's add female Custodies. And all of a sudden, the world explodes. Everybody goes, why are you doing this? And what did they do? They try and turn around and say, I don't know, there was always female Custodies. And they start revising the books and the Wikipedia pages and all this stuff to try and force you to believe that there was always female Custodies when there was never female Custodies. You're seeing other properties pop up in here, the likes of Chips and Baywatch and stuff. We saw what all those shows were, Magnum P.I., MacGyver, and how much they changed when they got redone. And of course got cancelled. The Chips movie completely missed the point from what the Chips TV series was. They took a serious format and changed it into this gross out comedy that absolutely failed and was just not Chips at all. Chips in name and name only. MacGyver, the original MacGyver, he never drank, he never smoked, he never used guns, except for the very first episode, which was the pilot episode. But that's obviously a pilot and you changed that. But he could go in and he worked alone. Yeah, he had people around him, but he worked alone until the new show comes out. Number one, they think the audience is retarded because what did they do every time he looked at something to make something to escape a room? It would write up above it, safety pin, bottle of water, pen. It was like, yeah, we know what these things are. Why are you spelling it out? But then it turns out he doesn't work alone anymore. He's got an entire team. His best friend in the original series, or at least one of his best friends, who was a guest star from time to time, who always managed to get MacGyver into trouble because he was always scheming for a plan to make money. All of a sudden, he's an elite sniper. And he's always there. He's a part of his team. MacGyver always had an earpiece in, so he could always get information from his hackers and stuff. Why did he ever need to escape a room when all you had to do was go, give me the codes. Okay. There's your codes. It was ridiculous. Magnum P.I. Let's just race swap him. Let's make him Latino. All of this stuff, it has continued for so long. And it's just like, you are your worst enemy. Hollywood, you are your own worst enemy. You see what people like. You see why they liked it. And you see how and why these shows, movies, comic books, video games have endured all of these years. And this idea that we can go in and fundamentally change all of it to focus on the 1% of people who are screaming the loudest on Twitter. Like, what are you doing? And now look, Stargate cancelled. No new Stargate. Amazon pulled the plug. And why did they pull the plug? because they felt you're kind of focusing too much on stuff that the original fans would love. It's like, that's exactly what you want. You want to bring the built-in audience. Why would you want to alienate the built-in audience? It's so bizarre. We're going to see this with the new X-Files. Even though it's only greenlit for a pilot episode, which still could get cancelled, they probably won't have the balls to do that, seeing as it's Ryan Coogler and he's just won an Oscar. But you're already seeing all of the injection of identity politics. The cast so far of main characters is completely non-white. There's not a white person to be a part of the main cast so far. It's like, wow, couldn't see that coming when you announced Ryan Coogler. It's like if they announce a Jordan Peele movie or TV series, everyone goes, well, this is going to be white man bad, black people the best ever. It's like, bet you the whole cast is nothing but black people. And sure enough, it's exactly what it always ends up being. It's the exact same when you get Paul Feig getting announced for a new movie or TV show. It's like, well, this is going to be female centric. Sure enough, it's all females. And you can always go, bet you Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig will be in this. Sure enough, those two are always hired. That brings us again to Ghostbusters. Why would you ever go, let's reboot it and let's make it an all-female show? And then what happens? The movie comes out and bombs, and then it turns out when you're told, hey, they didn't even go off the script. They just improvised practically everything in the movie. The fans had already said, we don't want a reboot. It didn't matter whether it was women. Didn't matter whether it was gay people. Didn't matter whether the cast would all be black. The thing the fans did not want was something that wasn't the original. They rejected it outright. But what happens? Oh no. It's sexism, it's racism, it's this, it's that. No, the fans told you straight away, we don't want this new product you're handing us. Give us something that's connected to the original. And they eventually did that with Afterlife and Frozen Empire. What happened with Frozen Empire and Afterlife? Yeah, half the cast for the female one went batshit crazy. Leslie Jones ran out there and said, how dare you take our movie away from us? I'm sorry, what? What do you mean, how dare we take your movie away from you? Ghostbusters was never your movie. It was always our movie. The fans' movie. Because that's who all of this stuff is made for. The fans. None of these movies are made for the studio. They're not made for the actors. They're most certainly not made for the critics. They're made for all of us. Every single person who works a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you're unemployed at the moment. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe you have it easy. Don't know. But all of us who wake up on a daily basis, get bored, get excited. We're going on holiday. We can't go on holiday. We're going out for a few drinks. We're going out for a meal. We're staying in for a few drinks. We're going to order it. Whatever it is, you want that escapism. And we go, hey, look what's on. MacGyver's on. Hey, look what's on. Star Trek's on. Hey, look what's in the cinema. Mortal Kombat. Hey, look what's coming to the cinema. Blade. And we take our time out and we watch these things and we invest our time, our money, our blood, our sweat, our tears, whatever you want to say. And Hollywood has decided, no, can't be about that anymore. We need to focus on the people who don't care about any of these properties. Don't care about the characters. They don't care about the stories. They more importantly don't care about the legacy. So let's just go in and race swap it. Gender swap it. Make everything gay. Superman's son always was straight. Not anymore. Let's just make him gay. Tim Drake, oh yeah, was always in a relationship with Stephanie. Not anymore. Let's make him gay. Why? Why have they taken it upon themselves to destroy these legacies? Truly, it's baffling. And the sooner they figure it out that, hey, you need us. We are the ones who make or break your franchises. I did a video only the other day about Supergirl. And someone came into the comments and said, what does it matter if it flops? How does it affect your life? What if it's great? How does it affect your life? The studio doesn't care. How does that affect your life? And he went on and on and on. And I simply replied, you do realise that Warner Brothers had to be sold because they kept putting flop out after flop out after flop. It affects lives when the audience is told to fuck off, that it's no longer for you, it's for this 1% over here that couldn't give two shits about our properties. They don't go and see our movies. They don't subscribe to our streaming services. They don't buy our comic books. They don't buy and play our games. They don't buy the merchandise. They don't buy the t-shirts or the collectibles. They don't do any of it. But hey, they scream the loudest on Twitter and all these other places, so we're gonna alienate the built-in fan bases and focus on them. And now they've destroyed these legacies of these once great franchises. And there's no end in sight as of right now. There's some glimmer of hope with certain things, you know, Kurtzman being outed at Star Trek. But other things, we're not seeing anything change. Star Wars, for instance. You have your first Star Wars movie on the big screen in 7 years. It's already in 6th place. And it's only coming into its 3rd weekend. It's 6th place. It's been beaten by not 1, not 2, but 3 movies made by YouTubers. And the cope is already there for people going, oh, this isn't actually the test. Starfighter is the real test. Then you have them saying, well, it's still doing really well. They've moved the goalposts that much. The goalposts aren't even in the stadium anymore. It's ridiculous. And the sooner Hollywood and the people creating all this stuff realise the damage they've done and they need to reverse course, the better. So, with that, that is the destruction of the legacies of all these once great franchises. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and hit that hype button. Check out memberships if you're interested. All that good stuff. Cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.